The morning sun filtered softly through the carved lattice windows of the Jiang sect manor, casting geometric shadows across a dark mahogany dining table. It looked like a picture-perfect scene of domestic harmony, but the tension in the room was thick enough to choke a lesser cultivator. Lin Yuer stood by the table, her posture perfectly straight, her hands folded neatly in front of her white silk robes. Her expression was a masterclass in wifely devotion, gentle eyes, a subtle obedient tilt of her head, and a soft smile painted onto her face. Inside her mind, a dark storm of righteous fury was raging. 3 days, she thought, her knuckles whitening beneath her sleeves. It took 3 days, 2 near explosions of my cauldron, and half my remaining life force to distill the 7-heart soul-shattering poison. In her past life, she remembered this very poison being used by the Orthodox Alliance to execute a rogue Dragon King. It melted flesh, shattered meridians, and turned the soul into ash within seconds. She had watched Zhang Xuan destroy her life once. She would not let him do it again. "Husband," Yuer purred, her voice dripping with sweet, practiced affection. She stepped forward and placed a heavy jade bowl in front of him. Inside, a pitch-black, viscous soup bubbled slightly, emitting a faint, ominous violet vapor. "You have been working so hard lately. I brewed this legendary tonic myself to help soothe your spiritual veins. Please, drink it while it's hot." Zhang Xuan, currently wearing a slightly oversized cloth apron over his luxurious robes, looked up from a piece of parchment where he had been sketching crude geometric shapes. He blinked his eyes, looking incredibly relaxed, almost painfully ordinary. "Oh, wow," Hana Zhang Xuan said, his face lighting up with genuine warmth. He didn't hesitate. He didn't test it for a raise. He didn't even use a silver spoon to check for toxicity. He just grabbed the jade bowl with both hands and lifted it to his lips. Yuer's breath caught in her throat. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This is it, she thought. Her inner avenger screaming in triumph. "Die, you tyrannical monster! Die!" Slurp, gulp, gulp. Zhang Xuan chugs the legendary, world-ending poison in 3 massive, unrefined swallows. Yuer braced herself for the spray of black blood, the agonized screams, the shattering of his cultivation base. She placed her hand flat against her thigh, ready to draw her hidden sleeve blade to finish the job if necessary. Instead, Zhang Xuan set the bowl down with a satisfied thud. He let out a long, refreshed sigh, his cheeks flushing with a healthy, vibrant color. Down in his lower dantian, his modern Supreme Civil Leisure system quietly fired off a tiny, unnoticed notification. Notice, extraneous caffeine analog detected. Absolute immunity applied, converting 5,000 units of toxic alkaline waste into a refreshing iced espresso flavor profile. Energy levels optimized. "Wow," Zhang Xuan said, smacking his lips slightly. "It's a bit bitter, kind of like a dark roast. But man, that has a kick. I feel like I could run a marathon." He looked up at Yuer, his eyes filled with profound, puppy-like gratitude. He noticed a small smear of black charcoal on her pale, flawless cheek from her 3 days of frantic cauldron stoking. Reaching across the table, he gently wiped the soot away with his thumb, his touch unexpectedly tender. "You stayed up all night in the kitchen making this for me, didn't you?" Zhang Xuan said softly, his voice full of concern. "Look at you. You've got soot on your face. Thank you for caring about me so much, Yuer. You really are the best wife a guy could ask for." Yuer stood entirely frozen. Her mind had completely short-circuited. He chugged it. Her internal monologue screamed in absolute horror. He didn't just survive it. He didn't even cough. He called it a bitter, dark roast and wiped my cheek. Is his cultivation base already at the primordial ascendant realm? He knows. He must know I tried to poison him, and this is his sick, twisted way of mocking my weakness. He's playing with me like a cat with a mouse. She forced her facial muscles to maintain the stiff, terrified shape of a smile. I am glad husband likes it," she squeaked out, her knees trembling beneath her robes. "I love it," Zhang Xuan said happily, throwing off his apron. "And since you gave me so much energy, it's time to finally tackle the biggest issue in this manor. Honey, have you seen the latrines in the outer courtyard? They are a biohazard. The plumbing in this cultivation world is completely primitive. I can't live like this anymore." Before Yuer could even begin to process what plumbing meant, Zhang Xuan walked out into the courtyard, humming a strange, upbeat tune. Intrigued and deeply suspicious that this was a trap, she followed him at a safe distance. Jiang Xuan stopped in the center of the courtyard, rolled up his sleeves, and closed his eyes. Suddenly, the air pressure around the entire estate dropped. Yuer's eyes widened as a suffocating, world-crushing pressure erupted from his body. The sky darkened, and the earth began to groan. It was the earth-shattering sovereign key, a legendary, catastrophic energy capable of leveling entire mountain ranges and shattering the grand arrays of major sects. Cultivators spent centuries praying to catch a glimpse of this power. Zhang Xuan simply pointed 2 fingers downward toward the solid bedrock beneath the manor. "Bore," he commanded casually. A localized, blinding beam of golden energy shot from his fingertips. Without making a single sound, it instantly disintegrated a perfectly round, 3-foot-wide vertical shaft straight through the unbreakable mountain bedrock, plunging thousands of feet into the subterranean depths. With a subtle flick of his wrist, he sent out minor waves of pressure, boring horizontal, perfectly smooth drainage tunnels leading far away from the town. He was carving a flawless, modern sewer system using a force meant to slay gods. System notification. Subterranean infrastructure milestone achieved. Reward: 1x grade 9 heavenly cleansing lotus. A glowing, ethereal white lotus materialized in the air in front of Jiang Xuan. Yuer suffocated on her own breath. A grade 9 heavenly cleansing lotus. Empires had gone to total war over a single petal of that flower. It could purify any curse, grant immortality, or elevate a sect's spiritual pool to the divine tier. Jiang Xuan caught the priceless cosmic artifact out of the air like a piece of junk. "Oh, nice, a filter," he muttered. He walked over to the main water reservoir feeding the manor, tossed the legendary lotus directly into the tank, and stomped it down with his boot until it wedged into the main intake pipe. There, that should take care of any heavy metals in the tap water. Now we can have a proper hot shower and a flushing toilet. Yuer slumped against a nearby pillar, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm. She looked at the water tank, then at the perfectly smooth, divine-cut drainage shafts, and finally at her husband, who was currently wiping sweat from his brow, looking immensely proud of his new toilet blueprints. The original Jiang Xuan was a status-obsessed social climber, she realized, her vengeful thoughts suddenly halting as a profound, jarring cognitive dissonance sets in. He was calculating. He hoarded every scrap of spiritual ki, strictly using it to impress the sect elders and climb the political ladder. He would have sooner cut off his own hand than waste an hour thinking about drainage. She stared at the transmigrator's bright, unburdened smile. This man possessed the power of a primordial god. He could summon grade 9 artifacts out of thin air. Yet, his greatest joy today was fixing our bathroom and making sure the water tastes crisp. Later that afternoon, she followed him as he walked down into the rundown, impoverished village just outside their manor walls. Using the leftover materials and bizarre system rewards he earned from his morning plumbing project, Jiang Xuan began happily laying down blocks of an incredibly dense, unbreakable gray substance he called concrete, smoothing out the pothole-ridden dirt roads with a joyous grin. As he worked, he stopped by the local bakery, waving casually at the terrified, bowing baker. With a flick of his finger, he infused the baker's old brick oven with a permanent automated heat regulation matrix, ensuring the bread would never burn again. "There you go, old-timer. No more smoky kitchens," Jiang Xuan laughed, patting the crying, grateful man on the shoulder. Watching him from the shadows of an alleyway, Yuer pressed her hand against her chest. Beneath her robes, her heart wasn't beating with the cold, icy rhythm of an assassin anymore. It was beating fast, warm, and erratic. He isn't the same guy, she realized. A sudden, overwhelming wave of emotion washing over her. The monster who ruined my past life, his soul isn't in there. This man is a gentle, bizarre, completely ridiculous imposter. And to her absolute horror and confusion, she realized she was falling completely, utterly in love with him. Over the next few weeks, Lin Yuer completely abandoned her assassination plans. Her entire mission shifted from how do I kill my husband to how do I keep this sweet, oblivious idiot alive in a world full of ruthless cultivators. She knew the cultivation world. They would see his kindness as weakness. They would see his public infrastructure projects as a bizarre, eccentric anomaly and try to take advantage of him. To protect him, she began operating in the shadows, intercepting rival scouts, silencing malicious rumors, and acting as his secret, fiercely protective guardian angel. So when Zhang Xuan casually mentioned over breakfast that he was taking a quick stroll up to the treacherous, fog-shrouded peak of extinction just to harvest a rare, fresh spiritual peach because he noticed she liked fruit, Yu instantly panicked. "Husband, wait! That mountain is—" "Don't worry, honey. Back in 5 minutes." Zhang Xuan waved, already out the door with a wooden woven basket strapped to his back. Terrified for his safety, Yu secretly tailed him, leaping across the rooftops and moving through the forest like a ghost. But she was too late. Word of his solo journey had leaked. Midway up the mountain pass, the sky suddenly turned blood red. The air grew heavy with sulfur and malice as the Ashen Bone Demon Cult, the most ruthless, top-tier underworld syndicate on the continent, manifested from the shadows. 3 legendary demon lords, draped in skulls and dark energy, landed on the path, blocking Jiang Xuan's way. "Jiang Xuan," the lead demon lord roared, his voice vibrating with malicious energy. "Today your soul belongs to the Abyss. Activate the universal 9-hell void-shattering array." Massive, glowing purple formation erupted from the earth, locking onto Jiang Xuan. Yu, hiding in the brush, felt her breath catch. It was a forbidden array capable of grinding an entire immortal sect into dust. She reached for her sword, her heart pounding, ready to leap out and die by his side. Jiang Xuan, however, just stopped. He didn't draw a sword. He didn't even drop his peach basket. He just sighed heavily, looking deeply annoyed. "Man, I just wanted to get some fruit before the sun gets too hot," he thought. As he took a step forward, his modern Supreme Civil Leisure system detected a minor environmental disturbance and casually applied a countermeasure. Notice, low-tier atmospheric interference detected. Deploying passive boundary field to maintain a comfortable 72 degrees Fahrenheit walking temperature. A microscopic ripple of pure, unadulterated primordial force expanded outward from Zhang Xuan's body. The moment his passive aura touched the forbidden world-ending demon array, the purple glyphs didn't just crack, they shattered like cheap glass. The backlash sent a shockwave tearing through the mountain. The sky instantly turned bright blue again. The 3 demon lords gasped, vomiting blood as the sheer, suffocating weight of Jiang Xuan's casual presence pressed down on them. The pressure was so immense, so incomprehensibly divine, that the mountain bedrock beneath their knees began to pulverize into fine powder. What kind of monster?" the lead demon lord wheezed, his face pressed into the dirt, his eyes wide with absolute primal terror. He hadn't even seen Zhang Xuan lift a finger. A power that could shatter a 9-hell array by just walking was completely beyond the realm of gods. Jiang Xuan walked up to them, entirely oblivious to the fact that he had just dismantled the underworld's greatest threat. He looked at their dark robes and the heavy iron chests they had brought to carry his remains. "Hey, you guys look lost," Zhang Xuan said, scratching the back of his neck. "And those chests look heavy. Tell you what, if you're heading down into the valley, can you carry some stuff for me? My back is killing me." 10 minutes later, Yu watched from the bushes, completely dumbfounded. Zhang Xuan was strolling down the mountain path, happily munching on a giant, juicy spiritual peach. Behind him, marching in a neat, trembling single-file line, were the 3 most feared demon lords on the continent. They were sweating profusely, acting like terrified delivery boys, carefully carrying Jiang Xuan's empty basket and several massive chests of their own stolen cult gold, which they insisted on donating to his community fund in exchange for their lives. Because of Jiang Xuan's relentless infrastructure upgrades, the rundown border town completely transformed within a month. It spontaneously evolved into a utopian metropolis. The concrete roads were wider and smoother than the imperial highways. Thanks to the premium system fertilizer he accidentally dumped into the town river, the local crops grew to the size of carriages, completely ending hunger. Even crime completely vanished. A group of high-tier bandits tried to raid the town treasury one night, but the moment they stepped within a 3-mile radius of the manor, Jiang Xuan's passive aura field registered them as unwanted noise and instantly paralyzed them from the neck down until sunrise. Naturally, the Grand Righteous Imperial Court in the capital caught wind of this localized economic miracle. Amazed and deeply intimidated by this sudden surge of absolute stability, the emperor assumed Zhang Xuan was a hidden supreme immortal constructing a divine kingdom. A week later, a royal procession of golden carriages and elite imperial guards arrived at the manor. The high royal emissary stepped forward, unrolling a purple silk scroll, and read a grand decree before the entire town. By order of the Son of Heaven, for unmatched governance and unparalleled strength, Lord Zhongshuan is hereby promoted to Supreme Overlord Governor of the entire Eastern Continent. The emissary kneeled, offering a magnificent, heavy golden crown encrusted with dragon jade. The crowd of citizens erupted into ecstatic cheers, shouting his name. Inside the manor, Jiang Shuan slumped over his mahogany desk, face planting directly onto his paperwork. He looked genuinely, profoundly devastated. Governor? Jiang Shuan groaned into the wood, his voice a muffled cry of pure misery. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many meetings a governor has to attend? The paperwork is going to be endless. I just wanted to build a public swimming pool with water slides this week. Why is the universe punishing me? Standing by the window, Yuer had to press her sleeve against her mouth to smother her laughter. She looked at her husband, who was currently kicking his legs under the desk like a frustrated toddler. The original Jiang Shuan would have slaughtered an entire generation of rivals, committed treason, and sold his own soul just to get a fraction of this political power. Yet here this man was, utterly heartbroken because world domination was getting in the way of his water slides. With his massive new title and godlike status, the manor was suddenly besieged by a different kind of threat. Opportunistic clan elders, greedy sect masters, and smooth-talking politicians flocked to the newly appointed governor's estate. They didn't bring weapons. They brought their most beautiful, highly cultured daughters and princesses, desperately trying to force Jiang Shuan into taking a harem of concubines to secure political alliances and expand his divine lineage. Jiang Shuan, being a modern guy who completely lacked the ancient patriarch mindset, was entirely oblivious to their aggressive flirting. Lord Governor, a stunning princess from a major southern sect, purred, stepping close enough to press against his arm. She batted her long eyelashes, fanning herself delicately. I have heard tales of your world-shattering strength. The way you handled the demon cult, it was so masterfully executed. Please, won't you show a fragile maiden like me your grand hidden techniques? Jiang Shuan's eyes lit up with pure nerdy excitement. Oh, you want to see my techniques? Jiang Shuan asked brightly, completely missing the heavy innuendo. Man, I've been dying to show someone. I actually just finished automating the town's central sewage treatment plant this morning. I used a rotating frost spell matrix to power the sludge-separating paddles. Come on, let me show you how the filtration gears spin. It's absolutely wild. The princess blinked, her seductive smile instantly freezing into a mask of pure, unadulterated confusion. Your what? Before she could answer, the temperature in the reception hall suddenly dropped to absolute zero. Frost began to rapidly spiderweb across the polished mahogany floor. Jiang Shuan felt a violent shiver run down his spine. His modern survival instincts, honed by a month of living with a former assassin, screamed at him to freeze. Slowly, the crowd of elders and blushing maidens turned toward the doorway. Lin Yuer was standing there. Her eyes were glowing with a terrifying, dark, jealous energy that made her look like a reborn, vengeful goddess of death. Her slender hand was resting on the hilt of her sword, the metal white-hot with her overflowing, possessive spiritual ki. She looked ready to slaughter every single woman in a 50-mile radius. Honey, Jiang Shuan squeaked, his godlike passive aura completely failing to protect him from his wife's terrifying glare. He was finally realizing exactly what was happening and what this looked like to his terrifying wife. He instantly bolted out of his chair, ignoring the princess entirely, and rushed across the room to grab Yuer's cold hands. He turned back to the horrified, trembling crowd of matchmaking elders, his face dead serious as he delivered his final ultimatum. Listen to me very carefully. I don't care about your political alliances, I don't care about expanding my lineage, and I don't care about princesses. I am a one-woman man. My wife, Lin Yuer, is the only person who gets to share my palace, my life, and my automated plumbing. Everyone else, pack up your daughters and get out of my yard before I test my new street sweeper array on you. The elders gasped, quickly grabbing their daughters and scrambling out of the doors in a panic, terrified of both the governor's threat and the icy lethal aura radiating from his wife. As the doors slammed shut, leaving the hall dead silent, Jiang Shuan turned back to Yuer, offering an anxious, pleading smile. See? I sent them away, honey. Are you still mad? Yuer stood there, her icy, terrifying assassin facade completely shattering. A violent, bright red, triumphant blush exploded across her cheeks. She bit her lower lip, desperately trying to maintain her poker face, but her heart was pounding so loudly she was certain he could hear it. A one-woman man, her mind echoed, her chest swelling with a fierce, possessive warmth. She buried her burning face directly into his chest, her hands tightly gripping his robes. "You dummy," she mumbled into his shirt, her voice small, flustered, and utterly defeated by love. "If you ever look at another princess, I really will kill you." "Deal." Jiang Xuan laughed happily, wrapping his arms around her waist, completely content with his chaotic, beautiful domestic life. The tentative peace of their newly upgraded utopian metropolis did not last long. To the paranoid, hyper-calculated minds of the cultivation world, Jiang Xuan's benevolent infrastructure projects looked like the movements of a terrifyingly patient mastermind. The orthodox righteous sects and the remaining factions of the demon cults looked at the perfectly paved, unbreakable concrete roads and saw a mass transit grid designed for rapid military deployment. They looked at the automated sewage filtration systems and assumed it was a continent-spanning alchemical array meant to siphon the world's spiritual veins. Driven by absolute primal terror of his rapidly expanding accidental empire, the two opposing forces did the unthinkable. They formed a grand alliance. On a stormy afternoon, the sky above the governor's manor completely turned to ink. 10,000 flying swords cut through the clouds, and massive demonic warships breached the fog. The grand masters of the orthodox sects and the ancestral patriarchs of the demon world stood side by side, uniting their power to launch a joint world-ending siege. "Jiang Xuan!" The alliance leader's voice boomed across the heavens, amplified by spiritual energy. "Your invisible trap ends today. Face the wrath of the united continent." Inside the manor, Jiang Xuan was sitting on the rug, currently assembling a modern, multi-tiered modular sofa blueprint he had just received from the system. He looked up at the ceiling, blinking as the walls vibrated from the immense pressure outside. "Wow, the weather forecast didn't mention thunder," Jiang Xuan muttered, rubbing his chin. He looked at his system panel, which was currently flashing a warning. Notice: severe acoustic and atmospheric pollution detected within a 5-mile radius. Deactivating ambient noise to protect users' rest period. Activating passive boundary shield. Jiang Xuan casually tapped the screen to accept. He didn't even stand up. He just went right back to trying to figure out which wooden peg went into slot B. Outside, the combined army unleashed their ultimate cataclysmic strike. A towering vortex of holy lightning and abyssal hellfire crashed down from the upper atmosphere, aimed directly at the heart of the estate. It was an attack capable of vaporizing entire oceans. But the moment the world-ending blast hit the invisible boundary shield generated by Jiang Xuan's system, the deadly elemental energy didn't explode. Instead, the system's passive filtering matrix treated the destructive force as unauthorized atmospheric clutter and gently refracted it. Boom, pop, fizz. The sky erupted not into death, but into a magnificent, dazzling display of multicolored, harmless fireworks. Brilliant streaks of emerald, gold, and deep violet painted the storm clouds, illuminating the entire valley in a breathtaking, festive light show. The 10,000 cultivators in the sky froze, their jaws dropping in absolute horror as their ultimate desperate attack was effortlessly transformed into a pretty light show for the peasants below. While the fireworks were softly crackling outside, lighting up the sky in vibrant shades of pink and blue, Lin Yuer moved through the deepest, darkest corridors beneath the manor. She wasn't worried about the siege. She knew her ridiculous, overpowered husband could handle a grand army without even looking up from his hobbies. Instead, her mind was focused entirely on his protection. Now completely and fiercely devoted to this sweet transmigrator soul, she had decided to fully secure their peaceful life by clearing out the original Jiang Xuan's blood-locked ancestral vault. She wanted to ensure no lingering curses, dark contracts, or ancient traps from the body's previous owner remained to disrupt their happiness. Using a drop of her own blood to bypass the ancient seals, the heavy jade doors groaned open, revealing a dusty, barren stone chamber. There were no piles of stolen treasure or dark artifacts here, only a single pale blue soul recording crystal resting on a central pedestal. Curious and deeply suspicious, Yuer stepped forward and infused a thread of her spiritual energy into the glass. The crystal glow, projecting a life-sized, ethereal image into the center of the dark vault. Yuer's breath hitched. It was the original Jiang Xuan, but he didn't look like the cold, terrifying, arrogant tyrant she remembered from her past life. The projection showed him pale, hollow-cheeked, and trembling violently. As she watched, he violently coughed, a streak of dark, corrupted blood spilling past his lips. His eyes, usually so sharp and predatory in her memories, were filled with a profound, bone-deep sorrow as he looked directly at the recording interface. If anyone is watching this, it means I am finally dead, and my soul has faded. The original Jiang Xuan spoke, his voice raspy, weak, and completely devoid of his usual icy pride. He let out a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. And if you are Yuer, I am sorry. I know you hate me. I made sure you did. Yuer's hand flew to her mouth, her heart hammering violently against her ribs. What? She whispered to the empty room. Your family's ancestral veins. The projection continued, his hands clenching into tight, trembling fists. You believed I destroyed them to steal your clan's forbidden phoenix core. You believed I married you to secure my own power. You tragic, foolish girl. Your family lied to you. They didn't flee because of me. They abandoned you because they discovered that the phoenix core inside your body wasn't a blessing. It was a volatile, incurable hereditary curse. It was slowly eating away at your soul from childhood. You wouldn't have survived past your 20th birthday. The projection stumbled, gripping the edge of a table in the recording, his breathing shallow and ragged. I searched every ancient text, slaughtered every demon beast, and climbed every forbidden peak looking for a cure. But there was none. The only way to save you was a forbidden soul transfer matrix, a technique to forcefully pull the lethal curse out of your body and lock it into my own meridians. But the matrix required an absolute spiritual bond. I had to marry you. Tears welled up in Yuer's eyes, spilling over her cheeks as her entire reality began to violently tear at the seams. I knew your pride, the original Jiang Xuan said softly, a rare, heartbreakingly gentle smile touching his pale lips. If you knew I was dying for you, you would have refused the transfer. You would have died with me. And my emotional intelligence? It has always been like a brick. I didn't know how to make you love a dying man. So I chose to make you hate me instead. I let you believe I was a cold, power-hungry villain. I kept you distant, locking myself away in seclusion so you wouldn't see my meridians rotting from your curse. I needed you to harbor a fierce, burning will to live, even if that will to live was fueled by a desire to see me dead. The projection grew faint, the light of the crystal beginning to flicker out as the recording neared its end. The original Jiang Xuan looked up one last time, his eyes soft with an unspoken, eternal devotion. The curse has finally reached my heart. I can feel my soul dissolving. Live well, Yuer. Stay strong. I am sorry I couldn't be the husband you deserved. The projection shattered into tiny, harmless fragments of blue light, leaving the vault in absolute darkness. Yuer dropped to her knees on the cold stone floor, her chest heaving as a lifetime and a half of misplaced trauma, righteous fury, and bitter vengeance completely collapsed in on itself. She buried her face in her hands and wept bitterly. The monster she had spent 2 incarnations plotting to torture and slaughter was never a villain. He was just a tragic, emotionally stunted idiot who had quietly marched into the jaws of death, bearing her terminal illness in absolute, agonizing silence just so she could draw breath. Her entire dark revenge arc, her decades of burning hatred, her desperate rebirth, it was all built on a beautiful, devastating misunderstanding. She cried for the man who died to save her, and she cried for the immense weight lifted from her own soul. The past was finally entirely healed. The ghosts of her previous life dissolved into the quiet vault, leaving her free. A few minutes later, the heavy jade doors clicked open again. Jiang Xuan walked into the vault, holding a freshly engineered, glowing glass bowl filled with vanilla ice cream. He had used a localized frost spell matrix to instantly freeze the milk, ensuring the texture remained perfectly creamy. Hey, honey, Jiang Xuan called out cheerfully. The fireworks outside finally stopped. The guys in the sky got tired of throwing lightning and just started asking for autographs. So He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes widened as he saw Yuer sitting on the stone floor, her shoulders shaking, her face streaked with fresh tears. Jiang Xuan completely panicked. He dropped the bowl of ice cream, entirely forgetting his godlike status, and scrambled across the floor to her side. He pulled her into his lap, his hands frantically wiping at her wet cheeks, his voice laced with pure, unforced terror. Oh my God, Yuer, what's wrong? Did you get hurt? Did a stray firework hit the vault? Tell me who did it. I swear I'll turn their entire sect into a public parking lot right now. Yuer looked up through her blurry vision at her current husband, This warm, ridiculous, deeply loving transmigrator who used world-shattering cultivation just to make her snacks and keep her safe from boring meetings. She looked at his worried eyes, so full of genuine, uncomplicated affection, and she realized that the universe hadn't given her a second chance to seek vengeance. It had given her a second chance to finally, truly be happy. A radiant, beautiful smile, free of any past life ghosts, deceit, or icy facades, broke across her face. She threw her arms tightly around his neck, burying her face into the crook of his shoulder, holding on to him as if he were her entire world. Hey, whoa, tight squeeze. Jiang Shuang laughed softly, surprised but instantly wrapping his powerful arms securely around her waist, resting his chin on her head. Are you okay, honey? I am perfect, Yura whispered, her voice soft, fierce, and entirely possessive as she pressed a warm kiss against his jaw. She pulled back slightly, her cheeks sporting a faint, beautiful blush. Now, come on, Your Excellency, Supreme Governor. Your modular sofa isn't going to build itself, and you still have a town council meeting to dodge. Jiang Xuan grinned widely, picking her up effortlessly in his arms as he stood. Now that was the kind of administrative duty I can get behind. Down in his lower dantian, the system quietly pinged one final time. System notification. Maximum domestic bliss achieved. Core soul synchronization 100%. Reward. Infinite longevity and perfect sofa blueprint unlocked. Jiang Xuan didn't even care about the notification. He just tightened his grip on his beautiful, terrifying wife, completely content with the fact that being an overpowered slacker was the greatest cheat code in the multiverse.
Immoral Affairs Bureau Survival Tip. If a transmigriator starts using world-shattering cultivation to improve sanitation, feed the poor, and spend quality time with his spouse, do not interfere. Heavenly power is meant for revenge arcs, power struggles, and irresponsible harem expansion. Anyone who looks at divine authority and thinks, I should build better plumbing, is operating on a level of madness beyond the Bureau's jurisdiction. If you survived this incident, please remember to like and subscribe. Continued public awareness is the only thing standing between civilization and another cultivator discovering urban planning.